And I'm back, and I'm thrilled with my guest tonight. He is the brand new voice of the Connecticut Tigers, and his name is Rich Haskell. Rich, welcome to the FeverCast.
Hey Gary, how are you?
I'm fine, and I want to thank you
Good.
for taking your time. It's a day off, your first day off, and I'm so glad that you decided to spend it with me a little bit of your time.
Well, I'm doing what I do every night and will continue to do past Labor Day, and that's sitting in a hotel room.
Well, we want to keep those vocal cords conditioned, and even though you've been doing this a number of years, so I'm sure you're well conditioned to keep talking.
Yeah, I'm conditioned to talk, but not the hotel room part because, well, I've been around the New York Penn League for this will be 24 years. This is actually my first gig as far as play-by-play, and certainly my first gig in Connecticut, and certainly my first gig doing all the games, home and away. So it's a little bit shocking for this old guy.
You're just a youngster. So, Rich, you're a radio veteran. You've worked in sports for a number of years in Vermont, and
Yeah.
so you got this job here. How did this come about? And in researching, I saw that this has been like a lifelong dream for you to do this.
Yeah, it's really kind of cool at 56 years old to finally get that thing that started kicking in around 5 or 6 years old when you're a little boy. And in my case, I guess you were Shea Stadium. In my case, it was Fenway. And yeah, it was just, I always knew, and I don't know how many people are lucky enough to have this happen to them, but I absolutely always knew what I wanted to do in my life professionally. From the time I was probably 5 or 6 years old, I used to interview my parents on road trips, and I'd stick cassette player microphones into the face of toll booth operators on road trips, and all these ridiculous things. And I just started interviewing people and started sort of practicing radio when I was like 5 and 6 years old, and it was weird. And I just never, usually when kids have their little boyhood dreams, girlhood dreams, and stuff, they sort of fade away by the time they get a little bit older, maybe into their teens even. But the passion for radio never went away. And now at 56, I'm loving it more than ever because I've kind of taken a right turn in the specifics of my radio career. I was a rock and roll DJ up in Burlington, Vermont for probably 20 years. Started in 1979. And then, and that continued for years and years. And I've been a news director. For the last 10 years, I've been a talk show host on the ESPN affiliate up in Burlington, Vermont. And the whole time, for the last 23 years, the entire time that the Vermont Expos and Lake Monsters have existed, I was their public address announcer at that old ballpark up in Burlington. And the general manager for a time there was C.J. Knudsen, who is now the boss with the Connecticut Tigers, has been for 5 or 6 years. And he called me about 3 months ago and said, "What do you think, buddy? You used to always say the only thing that would ever make you leave Burlington and would ever make you leave your radio job up there would be a play-by-play baseball gig." And about 5 seconds later, I said yes. So here I am in a motel in Norwich, Connecticut, a place I'd never set foot of or even heard of until about 3 months ago.
And living the dream. And we talked beforehand, and you said you mentioned that you're 56, and
Yeah.
in doing this hobby, actually, because I'm not making any money off of this, but I just love.
Trust me, neither am I.
Yeah. But I love talking baseball, so it's fun for me. But you said that it is a job. It's a very tough job, and there are a lot of kids around the league doing this.
Yeah, it's like the Syracuse pipeline, as I've learned, not just in baseball, but in basketball and really everything. And that, the more I look, I wish I started it 30 years ago. But you know what? You can't regret things like that. I'm lucky enough to get the opportunity.
Now, will this be a 1-year thing, or hopefully, or will you continue on, or what do you think?
Gary, I have absolutely no idea. Why don't you ask me that after about 74 days in a row of doing games? No, I have no idea. All I know is I'm completely in love with it right now, but we've only been going for a week. The only trip I had was Lowell. So I really have no idea. The cool thing is my boss at the radio station up in Burlington, when I told him after 30 years of working with him that I was quitting, and once he got his jaw off the floor, he's like, "You can't quit. You've been with me forever." And once he actually knew that I meant it, he pulled me in later on in the afternoon, and he says, "All right, here's the deal. We're going to continue to call the show, The Huddle with Rich and Arnie." Arnie is my partner. Arnie Spanier, another good New York City boy. You may remember his name. He does national work with Fox Radio and everything, too.
And a big Mets fan, I understand.
Oh, goodness. Tell me about it. That's all I ever hear about. But he lives in Burlington, and he's been my host for quite some time now. So they call it The Huddle with Rich and Arnie. He says, "Look, here's the deal. As soon as the season ends, you come back. Your job will be waiting for you. Arnie will be waiting for you, and we'll just call the show The Huddle with Rich and Arnie all summer without Rich."
All
and I mean,
right.
talk about a cool boss.
That's very neat because I know a lot of these guys are doing hockey and basketball on the side, in the winter. So you've got your regular job to go back to.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Gary, is I just don't know, and my partner's been constantly, he's just Arnie. He's just like, "So what's the deal? Do you like it? Do you hate it? What do you think? You're coming back?" And the only answer I can give him is that yes, I am coming back. I'm coming back at the end of the season. But I have to deal with, whatever it is, 76 games in 80 days. I need to find out if a grind is something I enjoy.
Right.
I need to find out if living in a motel for 4 months is okay. And I have a feeling I'm going to fall completely head over heels in love with the business and want to do a full season somewhere next year. That wouldn't surprise me.
Well, you'll see at the end of the year how that all pans out.
Yeah.
So tell us, what is a day like? Let me get my thoughts together here. What is a day like for you? I mean, when do you get to the ballpark? Give us an idea of preparation and that sort of thing. And what has been the most surprising thing that you've learned so far?
Well, my day is the big thing about this job and the real time consumer right from the start has been that I'm also the media relations director.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my experience as media relations director of anything is zero. So, and I had never done baseball play-by-play either. So CJ hired me with absolutely no idea if I could do it. He knew I loved baseball, and he knew I'd been on the radio for 30 whatever years.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. So I came in as media relations director, and I'll tell you that's the time consumer. I get in about 9 o'clock when the team's at home. I get in about 9 in the morning, and it's just go with interview requests. We have this kid Matt Manning, who I think you're probably going to get to see in Brooklyn on Saturday, unless they move him up in the rotation. And he was Detroit's #1 pick last year, and he has just been lights out his first 2 starts. And I learned very quickly that a lot of people want to talk to Mr. Manning in the media. So that has been unbelievable. I mean, I literally go to his locker every day with a long list of people, phone numbers, who they're affiliated with. So this was kind of a trial by fire. So I'm doing that most of the day. Then I get the media packages together, which is pretty time consuming because it's just an insane amount of stats for the media, for the press box. And that takes a couple of hours every day. And then I usually sit down, and I'm also in charge of just, getting the starting lineups and just a lot of little things like that take up time. I get in front of the microphone probably 5:30 for a 7 o'clock broadcast. And at that point, once I get the starting lineups down, it's just all about finding out about their past. What's interesting about the third baseman for the other team? What little story? Of course, in this day and age where everything's online and nothing's a secret, you can find out all kinds of stuff just by Googling the guy's name.
Yeah, it is. It is amazing now. Years ago, you'd probably have to have newspapers and all kinds of
Yeah.
team media guides and everything, and now it's all just right there on online for you.
Yeah, and the other big thing, Gary, it's been really crazy the last couple of days. We went to Lowell, and the first day they had 6 players come in and 3 leave. The next day was 5 players come in and 4 leave. And yes, at 2, it was, I guess it was yesterday morning, they had like 4 new players come in and 4 leave. So what they're doing, and this is very prevalent around the New York Penn League, is, the teams are drafting the guys. They're signing. They already drafted them,
Right.
obviously, but they're signing them, and they're assigning them to these teams. So all of a sudden, and I'm in charge of all that. I have to send all that info out to all the media outlets, all the radio and TV, everything, and to the league. So that's pretty intense right now because you don't want to get one of those wrong and, announce that some kid's supposed to be in Florida when he's in Lowell, Massachusetts.
And how do you keep up on stuff like that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How do you keep up with that particular aspect?
Well,
Because there's
it's
so
pretty
much.
Informal. I walk into the locker room and I ask,
Who's new?
and who the guy is that I found out is the source of it is the trainer of all things. I mean, everybody at this level of baseball, that's the charm of it to me, so much more than Major League, is that everybody wears about 12 hats. I mean, that's in the last month in Norwich, I've been a scoreboard operator at the ballpark. I've done PA, and I mean, you're just doing so many different things. But now I know who the go-to guy is. The trainer. He's the one because he's in charge on the road. He's also the clubhouse manager, so he is in charge of getting all the uniforms for the new players. Wow. And he goes, Rich, I've got 9 new guys. This guy Max Green, he's number 9. This guy Joe Smith, he's number 14. And so you have to, go to your computer and just completely redo the roster, send it out to all the teams. And it just gets crazy. People think you just show up a half hour before the game and start talking on the radio, and there's so much more to it than that.
Well, I know. Last year I spoke to your predecessor there, and he said, too, the hardest part was not only was he keeping score, but he had to keep a running account, like game notes, so he had press releases for right after the game, and it's just a very busy thing to do.
Yeah, it is, and I learned very quickly on that first road trip, and again, I'm as green as a human could be at this thing. I've never done this in my life, so I learned very quickly that you have lots of free time on the road. Especially on getaway day, because you have to check out of your hotel at 9 or 10 in the morning.
Oh yeah.
Then you hop on the bus over to the ballpark. You get there at noon for a 7 o'clock game. And so now what do? You sit there. That's what you do. So it's but I'll learn, and I'll learn how to streamline everything. And once I figure out about all this stuff like Snapchat and Instagram and all these things that are way over my head, I'll be better for it, I'm sure.
And there's so many outlets, as you say, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It's just incredible nowadays.
Yeah, I've been sending some pictures from, I don't even know what it is. I'm so confused by all the different outlets but I sent a picture through, I think it was Instagram yesterday. My friends back in Vermont could not believe that I was able to pull that off. Because I used to make fun of things like Instagram.
Yeah.
And I tweeted out a live video, and I know the people down in New York are going to laugh at this because obviously that's the media capital of the world. But little Vermont guy here tweeted out a video at the ballpark at Lowell yesterday and put it online and sent it back, and people actually got it. And you would not believe the response. All my old friends saying, I cannot believe you actually figured out how to do that and pushed all the right buttons to make it happen. Because this is just all stuff that's all brand new to me. And that was the whole reason why I just dropped my entire 30-year life up in Vermont, because I wanted to dive in at middle age before it's too late into something that I find really hard, and that's all this stuff.
Yeah,
and it's all new to me, and I love that about it, because there's nothing worse than just letting your life get stale.
And it certainly sounds like you're having a ball doing all of this so far.
Yeah, and a day off only 1 week after the season starts. That's kind of rare. And it's funny because everybody back in the office on Friday was like, they're all the kids are back there. Oh, I'm so exhausted. We haven't had a day off in ages. It'll be so nice to have a weekend off. And I'm looking at them like, congratulations. I'm glad you have a weekend off because I sure don't. There's really there's no let up at all in this life. I mean, obviously there will be, but I'm just absolutely loving it. But you can't blink or you'll miss something when you're doing a job like this.
Yeah. Well, so you're coming into Brooklyn for the first time this weekend coming up, July the 1st, and you'll get to see the famous Coney Island and the amusement park and the ocean from your vantage point and up in the press box. And, in August, you'll be coming back to go to Staten Island. I think that's the first time you're in to see Staten Island even, and wait until you see that view. That's a great one.
That ballpark. I have never seen Brooklyn. There's 2 parks left in the league. I haven't seen Brooklyn, and I haven't seen West Virginia because they just joined the league.
Ah, okay.
But I've been to Staten Island once, and it was magnificent. I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
In fact, the only time I've ever seen the New York Mets, I jumped on the ferry and got on the subway and headed over to Citi Field, as it was, it was just a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then get back just in time to watch the Staten Island, Vermont game. And you're right, that's a magnificent park.
Yeah, that's
But
great.
I'll tell you, Gary, I cannot tell you how excited I am to see the Brooklyn ballpark. I've never been to it. I've never set foot in Brooklyn, New York in my life. So this is going to be great.
Yeah, it's different with the rides going during the game, too. You're going to enjoy that.
Yeah, and I hear that I broadcast outdoors, which sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's. I don't know why they did it that way, but that's the way it is, and nothing you can do about it. Now, how do you like? Well, this is really, as you said, you've only been to Lowell so far this season, so you haven't been on the road too much.
I haven't. It's weird because, like I said, I've been to all the ballparks, but we haven't been anywhere. We've had basically 2 series. Played Aberdeen and then I went to Lowell, and now we're going to have Tri-City for 2 tomorrow, a 4 in all, and then on the road again to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's going to be the weirdest trip, and I think you already know the answer, is Vermont. That's going to be very, very strange, going back into that old rickety press box at Centennial Field after 23 years in a seat. I always said my dream in life was 3 seats to my right, 23 years up there.
And now you're going to get it.
Well, the thing, too, with George Como, I don't know if you know him. He's just the most wonderful. He's got a lady at Lowell, obviously. Great guy. George Como is another legend in this business.
Right.
In Vermont. And I always said, damn you, you're always in my way. I can't wear and play and still live in Burlington. Still up there after a few years in the games. But it'll be great to go back and see everybody. But that's not till August, so I've got some time to sort of settle into this craziness.
Yeah. Well, at least the Tigers are off to a good start. They're 5-2, first in the Stedler division in the New York Penn League, and Vermont's right behind them in a game and a half. But the Tigers look very good. And you mentioned Matt Manning, who's off to a very good start, and you also have a number of the draft picks from this year's team from this year's draft, I should say, have already signed, and they've been assigned to Connecticut. What can you tell us about some of the guys that you've seen so far, and who should we look for here in Brooklyn, the guys to watch, who's hot, who's not, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's so hard to tell who's hot and who's not, but I'll tell you the pitching is hot right now. Just about the entire staff still has an ERA of 0. They've been very good. They gave up 6 runs yesterday, but it was 9-0 after the second inning at Lowell, and they just kind of coasted. And but they've led the league or been second in the league in team ERA right from the get-go. So, yeah, they've sent a bunch of high draft picks. Of course, Manning, the number 1 pick last year. And like I said, I think you'll get to see him in Brooklyn on Saturday. Believe me, you want to go see this kid pitch. He's something else. That being said, he'll now probably go third inning and give up 7 runs. But some of the other guys, this year's 2017 Detroit Tigers second round pick, a kid named Ronaldo Rivera out of Puerto Rico. He came out of Chipola College in Florida. He had 76 runs batted in this past year. And he signed the second he got drafted. He signed the dotted line. He said, "Where do I sign?" And he got in his car and drove all the way up 95 by himself from Florida right to Norwich, Connecticut, and he was in uniform the next day.
Wow.
How great is that? Don't you wish everybody in baseball could do that? So he hasn't really gotten going, but he's broken out a little bit. I think he's like 4 for 18 right now, but he's a second rounder from this year, so look for him.
And he's a big kid,
most of the
too,
other
right?
higher picks that they've got, they just brought in over the weekend from Lowell. So it was very hard for me to really get a beat on any of them. They've either played 1 or 2 games. A third-round pick, a kid named Joey Morgan, who's a catcher out of the University of Washington. A lot of people had him pegged as the number 1 catcher in the draft, and I'm sure you'll see him in Brooklyn. He signed over the weekend and immediately ended up, I think he was 2 for 4 in the one game he played over the weekend. I'm trying to think some of the higher picks. They have a 9th-round kid who leads off named Luke Birch from Kent State. They have a couple of pitchers that have just signed, a 7th-rounder who you won't see, Brad Bass. We haven't seen him at all, but he signed over the weekend, and he's going to pitch Thursday in Norwich.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Besides me, a 6th-rounder, Dane Myers out of Katy, Texas, who went to Rice. To my imagination, are there like 100 pitchers from Katy, Texas? They must have the best high school team on the planet every year.
You know, that's like all the shortstops that used to come out of the Dominican. Yeah,
and they still do.
Yeah, they still do.
But it's amazing how many, and they're all like 6'5", 240, these Texas kids. Don't
they
Is there
grow them?
such a thing as like a 5'11", 160-pound Texan?
They say everything's bigger in Texas, so I guess it's true.
It's unbelievable. We have 3 or 4 kids on the team from Texas. A kid named John Hayes, he's 6'6", 225. Carson Lance, another pitcher, he's one of the kids from Katy, is 6'5", 240. Manning, the first-round pick, is 6'6". It's like you walk into the locker room, and it's like you think you're walking into a basketball locker room. It's pretty impressive. The other kid that might be of interest to you folks over the weekend, and I'm sure you'll see him because he's been in the lineups ever since he got drafted and signed, is Colby Bortles. And if that name sounds familiar, yes indeed, he is Blake Bortles' younger brother.
Oh,
nice. And he looks just like him. He's 6'5", 230, just like most of the team. And they signed him as a 22nd round pick. He's a third baseman out of the University of Mississippi. So you'll get a chance to see Blake Bortles' little brother. And just kind of a mix and match of draft picks. And it's so interesting this time of year, Gary, because it's so funny because on opening day, I would say 3/4 of the team is from Latin America.
right.
And by the end of the first road trip, 2/3 of the team is not from Latin America. They've been either sent up or they've been sent down.
Right.
But it's fascinating, and I was talking about this in the game yesterday, but the Latin American influence in baseball is just wonderful. It's so cool to walk into that locker room and hear the Spanish music just blasting out of the speakers in the locker room, and everybody is speaking Spanish, and I just thought, how cool is this, you know?
Well, it's funny that you said that about the different fractions of the team because I remember last year I went to opening day and went about a week or 2 later to a game, and it was like a completely different roster. It's like everything, guys were sent up, down, all over the place, and I know the former manager Tom Gamboa, what he used to do is when they went on the road, he would always put a Latin player with an American player if he could, and he wanted them each to get he wanted to have them both absorb each other's culture. And he felt that was a very important thing to do. And I don't know what they're doing this year, but that was his idea. And I think it worked because he always had a good rapport. But speaking of managers, now you have a first-year manager as well with the Connecticut Tigers, Gerald Laird, the former Major League catcher. How's he doing so far? I know it's so early, but give us a little insight on him and his coaching staff.
Well, I'd say more than any other person involved in this team, I've talked to him. He's been great. You have to. That's another thing about media relations I'm learning. You have to be very close with the manager because you're constantly texting and calling him at all hours of the day and night.
Right.
Gerald's been absolutely as gracious as you could possibly be. I kind of wondered, World Series ring and a catcher and he's a former ball player and made tons of money in his career, and I just was kind of like, oh boy, I hope he's all right. And he could not be a nicer guy. Couldn't be a nicer guy. He's just great, Gary. And the players like him too, and I don't think they're just blowing smoke. I think they really do like him. I think they felt the same way I did. I think they were a little nervous about, in their case, playing for a former major league catcher. I know the catchers were nervous about it. I mean, you talk about scrutinizing you. But he has been completely nice, and I have nothing bad to say about him right now. Of course, I wouldn't anyway.
No, I wouldn't want you to either.
But he's very nice, and as you said, he's as green. And I told him this opening day. I said, you know what? You're as new at what you're doing right now as I am at what I'm doing.
Exactly.
This was opening day was a first for both of us.
Yeah.
And his first comment to me was, there are so many players. I don't know who to start. He had no idea, other than Matt Manning, who of course is being, they're calling up from Detroit and saying, do not let him throw more than 55 pitches tonight or whatever. They kind of control his workload and pitch count. But everybody else, he's just guessing in the beginning of the year. He really is. And so far, so good. I mean, they've won 5 games, and none of them have even been close.
Yeah, they've certainly gotten off to a very good start. And as you know, and as we've said, it is a grind. It's a long season, and they may come back to earth, but keep your fingers crossed. They're playing well now, and they should keep it up. Hopefully they'll stumble this upcoming weekend when they come to Brooklyn. But
yeah, what's going on with the Cyclones? Do I see 4 losses in a row? That's different.
They've yet to win at home, as a matter of fact, and that's not a good thing. But they are stumbling a little bit, and they're having trouble throwing the ball. They can seem to catch it, but throwing it's another issue. But look, that happens at this level a lot, and you're going to see some newer guys coming in as well that we haven't seen. I think the 3rd round and the 4th round pick have been signed, and they will be here with Brooklyn. And but it's just it's a slog right now, and first year manager and everything, so we'll see what happens with them. But
well, I'll tell you, for years, as you probably know, they have been the absolute doormat of the league record-wise for probably 20 of those years. We never wanted anything to do with Brooklyn because the one thing the Cyclones have always had, and you certainly could back this up, is pitching.
Yes.
Clearly the Mets are interested in drafting pitching and keeping them close to Citi Field as they start their career. And I just remember over the years, it seemed like every time we played Brooklyn, whether it was in Brooklyn or up in Burlington, every game was 2-1 or 1-0, just a real grind amount kind of pitcher's duel. And 9 times out of 10, we ended up on the wrong end of the stick.
Yeah, they certainly have had a history of pitching, and they drafted some this year. Last year, the number 1 pick was a pitcher, so you missed him. But
good.
He's moved on to bigger and better things. He's moved on to I think he's at St. Lucie now. But it should be a good series.
I was going to say that's why I mentioned Matt Manning as the number 1 pick, because he's going to move on too. I can't promise he's going to pitch Saturday. He might pitch Friday, but if you find out he's pitching Saturday, folks, you should get out to the ballpark because he's something else, and I guarantee you he won't be with the team by the end of the year. He probably won't even be there by the All-Star break.
Yeah. That's what happens in this league, right, Rich?
Yeah. Those guys move up. We just stay where we are.
Well, Rich, I really want to thank you again for coming on. This has been a real blast. I've really enjoyed it, and I urge everybody, as you said, get out to the ballpark anyway. It doesn't matter what the team is. Go see these kids because, some of these kids are going to be in the big leagues in a couple of years and see them when they're
Yeah.
young and developing. It's just a great time.
There's nothing better, and it's just so much easier. Everything, the whole process of going to a minor league game is just so much easier, and that's something that makes me want to go to minor league games over major league games, and not to mention the price.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just so simple. So I assume I'll see you out there, being the big fan you are. You gonna be there?
I am going to try. I don't know if I'll make it this weekend, but I'm going to try. And if not, I hope to run into you sometime in the future. I hope to get to Connecticut one of these days too. I keep trying. I'm still working at a full-time job, so that kind of stops me sometimes. But
that darn thing called making a living.
I know it's a pain. Next year's going to be better.
Well, luckily,
for me.
I don't have a job. I have a hobby. That's no job. Hey, Gary, thanks so much, and I hope to see you soon, and we'll definitely see everybody this weekend at the ballpark.
Yes, sir, and I'll keep in touch on Facebook and whatever. And Instagram.
And Snapface and InstaChat. Yeah, okay.
Thanks again,
Rich. Take care, Gary.
All right, and we'll
Bye-bye.
be back right after this. What a nice guy.
Yeah?
Oh, he was the best.
Oh, that's nice. Are you doing a second show with Rich?
No, we're going to do it tomorrow night.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you said that.
The only trouble is phone dropped out a couple of times.
Oh.
But what a nice guy.
What's his name again?
Rich Haskell. He's 56. He's going to be better.
Well, luckily, I don't.
I'm sorry?
Which team?
Connecticut Tigers.
Oh, okay.
He works for ESPN up there he's been in Vermont for like 30 years working on the radio.
Oh.
And he was working in ESPN, and he was the PA announcer for the Vermont Lake Monsters.
Oh.
So he knows Leahy, he knows all these guys. And the guy that I think he said the general manager of the Connecticut Tigers used to work for Vermont, so he knew the guy. So he didn't go. I don't know what the circumstances is, but the guy called him up about 3 months ago. I guess the other day, the kid Chris Jones got a better job somewhere else. And he said, well, you always said the only reason you would leave Vermont is to get a baseball play-by-play job. What do you think? I got one available.
Wow.
And he says he waited about 5 seconds and he said, yeah, I'll do it.
Do you have a family?
I don't know. We didn't get into that aspect of it. I didn't, in case he's divorced or something, you don't want to get into all that. But he says he's living in a hotel room in Connecticut because his home is in Burlington, Vermont. So he says he's still getting used to that because you go on the road, you're in a hotel, you're home. To him, home, he's in a hotel. But what a nice man.
That's nice.
You could hear we were laughing.
I heard you.
Yeah. He says, am I going to see you this weekend? I said, I don't know if I'll be able to get there.
Get where?
To the game.
Oh, Cyclones?
Yeah. I should tell them they don't want to give me press passes. And he's also handling the media relations. So if I ever get to Connecticut this year,
Oh, that's good to know.
he's the guy.
Oh, that's great. It's nice when you connect with
Hey, Gary, thanks so much, and I hope to see you soon, and we'll definitely see everybody this weekend out at the ballpark.
Yes, sir. And I'll keep in touch on Facebook and whatever. And Instagram.
And Snapface and Insta.
He said the hardest part is this all the media stuff. He said the other day he took a picture